Present day. Present time.
Are you sure about that?
Welcome to Tea and Toffees, a twice monthly Readable podcast. Hello, I am Neitshayd, an undead demon.
And hi, I'm Cecilia, a former witch.
Today's topic shall be serial experiments Lain. As such, content warning. I probably should have put that in the intro. Oh well. No matter. I mean, everyone who watched Lain knows exactly what's going on there. So, content warning for mentions of suicide and various mental illnesses. There we go.
They have been warned.
I think that about covers it. And weird shit, because this show is,
very weird.
Alright, Serial Experiments Lain is a 13-episode anime series from 1998. Old.
Very old.
It is over 25 years old when this podcast episode comes out. It could be considered science fiction and cyberpunk, genre-wise. It is rather dark in its themes and also very confusing on your first watch when you don't know what to expect, and still confusing on your second watch if you're Cecilia.
Hey! I was only very confused on my first watch, I will have you know. A second time watching, I understood most of it. At least I think so.
You think so now?
Yes.
Well, I suppose still confusing if you're most people then on the second watch.
How many times have you watched Serial Experiments Lain in total?
Because you only watched it twice. Well, 5 or 6 times? I think, if I remember correctly, 2 or 3 times on television several years ago. There was an anime channel that doesn't exist anymore, but when I was living with that human family, the one with the doggo, I had an anime channel on TV.
So,
and that it aired Lain among other series. And then once with you, and then once more in preparation for a podcast. So 5 or 6 times.
So more than double.
Yep. But I don't really remember the first times I watched on TV because it's been ages. And I didn't really pay much attention back then. Anyway, this anime is a cult classic. It is weird. It was far, far ahead of its time. Lots of people have analyzed it thoroughly over the years, and many have interpreted it differently. And yet, most people who like anime don't even know it exists. These days. Most probably didn't even know it existed a decade ago. Which is interesting. Even though this is a cult classic.
Interesting.
Sparked a lot of discussion.
Very interesting.
Personally, I say it is worth watching. It really is. Although most people should probably look up trigger warnings beforehand.
Yes, they definitely should.
Or listen to this episode, because I will give a brief overview later on the plot and all. Which includes what I put in the content warnings, so yeah.
Yeah.
Also something I noticed on the rewatch, it's like, they don't even tell you that it's bad to stare at a screen all day. The way the show is animated says it all. And then I think about what most of the younger generations in this world do all day nowadays, which is staring at computer monitors and tablets and smartphones all day.
Yes, that is precisely what they're doing, but I don't think the adults are much better. At least, maybe some are better, but not all of them.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
and if it's not computers and tablets and smartphones, then it's a television.
Yes.
Which is also a screen.
It's also a monitor. So yeah, most adults also stare at monitors all day nowadays.
Alright, Cecilia, do you want to know why I suggested this series, other than the obvious implanted chips and AI apocalypse that is about to happen?
Yes, I want to know.
Because it has parallels to Through the Looking Glass by Carrol, one of my 2 favorite books, the other one obviously being Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I will get into that, together with the Alisu Alice thing. I have a little section on her. I will call her Alice, by the way. Just saying. Because I know that many official translations use Alisu. Anyway. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of parallels and references, but it's there. And it's the reason I suggested this. And obviously because we are facing an AI apocalypse.
Yes, yes, we are.
Anyway, a great many things in Serial Experiments Lain are up for interpretation. So things that are discussed in this podcast, or, well, I do most of the talking as usual.
As usual.
So things that I will try to explain to the best of my ability could be interpreted differently by our audience or other people on the internet. Because, yeah, if you watched Lain, then you might have a different view on what happened.
And one day there will be an episode where I do more than 50% of the talking. Maybe one day.
Well, we started out with like 50-50 around-ish.
Yeah, I think so.
But recently I've been doing most of the talking.
Now it's
fine.
It's making me want to add more stuff to the notes for the next episode. To think about stuff.
To be fair, for the early episodes, I knew the themes before we went into preparing.
Yes.
These days, I have no clue what we're gonna do with them.
Yes. That helped me to know what to focus on while watching. I'm
not sorry. Well, as soon as I know something, I'll let you know. But
thank you.
I did that for Violet Evergarden. Anyway, Serial Experiments Lain. So, let's start with a little overview and some background. In an interview, writer Chiaki Konaka said that originally the team behind Serial Experiments Lain was meant to create a video game. I believe it was for the PlayStation, the original PlayStation.
Okay. It didn't know.
Yeah, you would load the game and then it would connect with a virtual network and give the player contradictory information about a girl named Lain. There is actually a game for the PlayStation that seems to not make a whole lot of sense if you're not familiar with the show. Because the anime came out first, in the end. Apparently Lain has a therapist in that one. I don't know. I'm sure someone somewhere talked about it. I read... it was mentioned in some of the things I read.
Okay, to sum it up. Game developers created an anime.
Yeah. You do need a slightly bigger team for an anime compared to a game, but I think most of the things, the team basically had what it needed.
Now that I think about it, it does make sense. Should be possible.
It does. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, they were going to do an anime-style game, so...
Yeah.
They had the animators know.
Well, the more you know.
Alright, so... Our protagonist is Iwakura Lain, a Japanese middle school girl. Or, if you're American, I suppose it would be junior high.
America.
So she'd be 12 to 14 years old. The Lain wiki tells me she's 14. So I suppose she's in her 3rd year of middle school. We are introduced to her as a very shy and socially awkward girl. She's rather isolated at school. At least one of her personalities is, because we later see that there are several different ones. I will get into that, because of course. The show starts with students receiving an email from a girl that committed suicide in the very first scene of episode 1.
Really set
we
the
see
tone.
That.
Really set the tone for the show.
Yeah. We see that girl jumping from a roof, falling down. People discovering that.
We see blood.
It's not extremely graphic, but still to a certain degree graphic. So yeah,
it's not left up to interpretation what happened. You know what happened.
Yeah, but usually it's like, yeah, okay, you see them jump and then you see like an arm or something, but I think in this case we actually see blood and we see the reactions of those who see her.
Yes, we see blood and the couples that are standing right like 2 meters from where she fell. How they react.
Yeah, so it's and it's where the first, like I said, trigger warnings. Anyway, so Lain finds out that the girl apparently is now living within the Wired, which is a virtual world made of networks. Networks like television, telephones, and the internet, of course. It's basically the equivalent of the internet.
Basically.
So, yeah, we follow Lain as she befriends some classmates and simultaneously gets more and more entangled with the Wired, the lines between real and virtual blurring, and has to face the decision whether to abandon her body to become one with the Wired. Although ultimately it is revealed that Lain was never a real person. She was a rumor. Well, Lain, not Lain. Lain was a rumor from the Wired given an artificial body. So yeah, that's a synopsis, a short one. I have a longer one later on. For context, the anime aired July to September 1998. The internet, as a global system of connected networks in our world, was created during the 1970s and 80s. It uses internet protocols, which play a role in the anime, mind you, because Protocol 7 is a reference to IP version 6, which was, and I was surprised to discover this, introduced in 1995, and formally succeeded IP version 4 in 1998. Yet, today, IP version 4 is still widely used. It's been over 2 decades, and IP version 6 still has not completely replaced
what happened
which is interesting.
to IP version 5?
I have no idea.
Because apparently they went from 4 to 6, and not really?
I don't know. I didn't look that up. I'm sure there's a reason for the naming. Because I'm not sure whether version 5 does exist. But yeah, it's interesting, because I thought version 6 was a recent thing, but no.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah, into 1990s. Yeah, so like I said, anime, 1998. The World Wide Web as an information system was invented in 1989 and made accessible to the public in 1991. Google, the company, was founded in September 1998. The first prototype of the Google search engine was developed in 1995. The final launch, if Wikipedia can be trusted, was in 1997. Officially, Google launched in 1998, the same year the anime aired.
Wow.
Google is not the first web search engine, but it has become the most used. And I believe most of the ones that came around at the same time as Google don't exist anymore, or are not used anymore.
Google conquered them all.
Yeah. It's, some of the other big ones came later. Most of the big ones came later, I believe. Anyway. The main themes of this show are obviously the Wired, representing the internet, and how it connects people. Communication in general, also technology. Like, the Navi is a very obvious reference to Apple devices.
Lain's father tells her, can't get this wrong. You know, Lain, in this world, whether it's here in the real world or in the Wired, people connect to each other. And that's how societies function. And that's what this show is all about. People connecting to each other, the Wired, and the real world.
I gave you a whole section about the connection part. Something nice like that.
Aw, thank you.
It is also about loneliness, mental illnesses, reality versus virtuality, theology, as well as briefly drugs.
Yes, that too.
So, Stereo Experiments Lain predicted how the internet would influence the world in the future of 1998. Pretty well, I'd say. Some parts in more abstract ways, but you can, for example, actually find representation of modern social media in this show.
I noticed. It was very scary. How did they so accurately predict it? As I was also reminded of the old Studio Ghibli films, because those films are still relevant to this day. And this show is as well, even though it's like just as old. And it's astonishing. It's scary. And yet somehow not surprising at all.
Indeed. Yeah, the animation is 25 years old. It is not impressively good. I mean, the resolution can't hold up anymore, obviously. But it's not bad either.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And I wouldn't say that it has aged all that much. I've seen more recent anime reverse animation, to be honest. What I find interesting about the animation of Lain is, for one, shadows are never purely black or shades of grey. They have patterns, sometimes even moving ones. Often we get very strong contrasts between light and shadow.
A lot of contrast with the colors. I also noticed that. A lot of white and black, but the colors you do have are still not overly intense. Unless they want them to be, of course, like with the red computer, the red Navi.
Yes. I personally think watching Lain was very refreshing.
Oh, yes.
Just to see them different methods they use to set different scenes, moods, how they emphasize parts of the dialogue with the animation. I honestly haven't watched many recent anime shows because they all sort of end up looking the same, and most don't feature an engaging story either, but Lain, it's old yet very refreshing to watch.
I have to agree with you.
Nice. Another part goes hand in hand with the animation is the soundscaping. It is very interesting because they specifically include sounds to represent the power and telephone lines that we often see in this anime. They really like to focus on them.
Oh, yes, they really do.
As well as other technology. Yeah, they have sounds to represent all the power lines and technology and stuff. The music, too, gives you this cyberpunk feeling at some times, and at others, very eerie vibes. And it is always in focus.
Yes, yes. Serial Experiments Lain actually doesn't really have background music, just sound effects for the most part. And it makes them stand out even more and really puts a focus on them, which it was very fitting.
Indeed. So, structuring Serial Experiments Lain. Because, one, I feel like we do need to include a proper summary in here for more context. We usually don't need to, but Lain is a bit confusing. Also not really linear, even though you think it is. And also, yeah, there was an interview. I'll get to it in a moment. So, first of all episodes except 13 start with present day, present time, inserted off here, followed by the intro song, and then the same shot of what might be Shibuya Crossing. It's exactly the same for episodes 1 to 9. Episodes 10, 11, and 12 are visually the same, but have slightly different soundscaping compared to 1 and 9. Episode 13 also has the sequence, but only gets it halfway through the episode. By the way, the present day, present time part is meant to convey that this is an alternate timeline to ours, and so it is independent from the passing of time in our world.
And I wondered how much budget they saved with having the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds always the same, always same visuals. And normally in an anime you only have the first 90 seconds, it's typical opening length, but this time you have added a whole another minute. It's how much did they save? Because an episode is not that long, it's only 24 minutes or something, and if 1 additional minute is always the same. But then again, they only had a game developing crew, so not the manpower you usually have behind an anime, so maybe that played a role as well.
I don't know, but it does fit the story.
Yes,
which
it does.
Often you cannot make that word. Also, the recap episode fits more on that in a minute. Anyway. What I find interesting, the episodes blend into each other as a continuous, but not truthfully linear narrative. Most anime, especially older ones, or generally older shows like Avatar, The Last Airbender, for example, are episodic in nature. Because it's just TV nature, you know?
Yes, I know.
You can tune in, you don't miss much of previous context and stuff, but Lain doesn't do that. Very interesting. Wouldn't fit anyway. Episodic just wouldn't work with this show.
Yeah, not really.
So, the following, the actual structure, is in part paraphrased from an interview with the screenwriter, Chiaki Konaka, or well, paraphrased from translations of the interview, I should say.
Yes, because we do not speak Japanese.
Yeah, and partially supplemented with things that are obvious from watching the anime, according to me. Yeah, the official translation that I found was horrible, so I looked up other translations of people who did a better job. Yeah, anyway. So, the first 4 episodes introduce the characters, and the setting for context. We start with dark alleyways, a couple making out, a middle school girl committing suicide. Mood is sufficiently set.
Yes.
We get the inciting event, a mail from the girl who committed suicide, which sparks Lain interest in computers and the Wired. We meet Lain, her future friends, her odd family, and are introduced to the Wired, to Siberia, to the weirdly computer-savvy kids, to Lain's very strange talent at building computers, and other stuff. The 5th episode then starts off the arc the creators really wanted to express. It is an odd episode because Lain talks to a doll, a mask, then something that looks like the mother, something that looks like the father, and then there's prophecies involved. I don't know. It's strange. Anyway, episode 6 is apparently sci-fi entertainment. It's an interesting episode because Lain's computer mania is getting out of hand. On that note, where is she getting all this stuff from? How is her setup not causing water damage to the rest of the house?
I was wondering that as well. It's like you have water all over her floor. How is it not seeping to the lower floors?
And later on, it will even grow out of the outer wall like a tumor. I'm assuming that Tachibana Labs, the ones who installed Lain's family at their house, more on that later as well, are paying for all that, but
I guess.
Then again, how does anyone in this anime earn money? Because no one's ever doing an actual job, but whatever.
Whatever.
Anyway, lines are blurring now. Episodes 8 and 9 explain the viewpoint the story is about, a concept about searching for the truth. And also the Roswell incident and aliens, but
who cares?
Well, it's there. Episodes 10 to 12 conclude the story, wrapping up plot points and questions that were raised. If you can pass through what they show you. In episode 10, Lain and Deus have a proper conversation. Or Kami, or Masami Eidi, or whatever you want to call it. I call him Deus. Interestingly enough, they swap appearances for some reason. So Deus is talking with Lain's appearance, and Lain is talking with Deus' appearance. I must say though, this one is very well done in the voice actors' parts. You can hear the respective characters in their voices. And for me at least, I immediately noticed it when Lain switched back to being actually Lain and not Deus in her own body.
I didn't know this, Dad. I didn't notice. Shame on me. I didn't notice.
Yes. If you didn't notice, then I suppose the context it creates is very different from what it actually is. The entire... you can swap them for the entire conversation, but it changes the meaning of what they're saying. This episode is also a bit weird because adult men keep telling Lain that they like her, but...
Weird.
Oh well. Episode 11 has the obligatory low-on-budget recap flashbacks. Doesn't even pretend to be anything else. But in a weird way with almost no voices, and the music is really at odds with what we are shown on screen. Like, we see a lot of screens, not a lot of talking. And then upbeat, funky music. It's really odd. Yeah, that's the first half of the episode at least. The second half is still super weird though. Even though it's just an actual episode part, you know. We get Lain talking to dead people. Lain seeing the Wired integrated with the real world. Lain having an alien body with a weird striped sweater. That actually reminds me of a previous episode where someone in the Wired talked about a childlike person in a red and green striped shirt appearing in her room. Whatever her room is. I took notice of that. I was like, wait. Someone talked about a striped shirt, and I looked up the transcript and I was like, huh. It's the exact same one Lain is wearing in that episode.
Maybe it was Lain all along.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But at that point, you don't know that. And it's never outright stated, but... tidbit. So, yeah, and then episode 12 is, according to the writer, according to that interview, actually the finale, conveying the message of the show. That the physical body is what makes one human, the emotions connected to it, love, whatever that is supposed to be, physical intimacy, etc. Personally, I disagree with that message. Being shackled to a three-dimensional body of flesh and bones is horrible, but oh well, inhabitants of this world have not evolved to fourth and fifth dimension yet. I don't know why. Whatever. It's just, that's the message of this show. Your physical body makes you human.
The body exists to verify one's own existing. The more I thought about that statement, the more I kind of liked it. People who feel invisible still exist. They still have valid opinions and emotions. They have a body. They exist. They are valid. And I hope they will find the right person to be happy with. Whether that be platonic or romantic, I don't care. Just find the right person for you. Or animal.
No one needs
cat.
No one needs
yes.
No one needs people to be happy. People are redundant to be happy.
Well,
I don't need people.
Humans usually need people to be happy.
But cats.
A valid point. A very valid
point.
Like
you said. People or animals. I'm like, cats? Yeah. People? No.
Cats.
No.
4 cats. 10 cats.
Yes.
A bunny. A boa.
All the cats. All the cats. Anyway, so. Episode 13 then gives us a proper ending for Alice/Alisu, which episode 12 couldn't focus on. I wonder though why the writer said episode 12 was the finale, because it's not told that way.
Yeah, I didn't feel it like it was the end.
So either that is a mistranslation, or he did make a mistake, or I simply don't see what he meant. Because 13 is written like a finale and not an epilogue that merely wraps things up. Those are different things. It's written like a finale, and 12 is not written like a finale. Well. And then at the end of episode 13, the sounds stop, we zoom out, we get one final distorted message, and we are done.
We are done.
So essentially, 1 to 4 as an introduction, 5 to 7 to set up the actual arc, 8 to 9 to explain the perspective, and 10 to 13 to wrap things up.
That was a very long section just to explain that.
Yep. Just like this anime. Well, people who aren't interested can just skip this section. That's what timestamps are for. So, I would like to go into specific details and characters. Lain, obviously, Deus. But first, let's start simple before we go crazy. With Alice.
Well, enjoy your monologue.
Because I haven't been doing that all this time anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Character Alice. So is her name Alisu or is it Alice? It's obviously both. Both is correct, of course. Because Alisu is the Japanese version of Alice. For some reason, most translations of serial experiments Lain use Alisu. I don't know why. There are instances in this anime where her name is written in Latin letters, and those always spell Alice. Alice is clearly a reference to Lewis Carroll's Alice. Also, Professor Hodgson and the Cheshire Cat are more references. More on Hodgson later, by the way. There is an anime titled Alice in Cyberland from 1996, written by Chiaki Konaka, who wrote Serial Experiments Lain. So, some people have never read Alice in Wonderland or seen adaptations of it.
Like me.
Shame on you, Cecilia.
Yes.
So for people like Cecilia, the Alice from Alice in Wonderland, which actual title is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, is a very polite but curious girl that relies on sensible logic and clear, defined rules and acts rather entitled, coming from a wealthy family and education. This personality clashes with the rude, nonsensical inhabitants of the Wonderland she's thrown into, where things only make sense for those living there. She's constantly confronted with things that simply do not make sense, like the Cheshire Cat. Best character ever. Anyway. With people being incredibly rude for her standards, but she remains courageous and sticks to what she knows to be true and logical. And she's very polite. She remains polite throughout, even though everyone is really incredibly rude to her. And then in the second book, Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, Alice is a little bit different. I always think of them as two separate Alices, but we have neither confirmation of that nor whatever the opposite
Denials.
of confirmation is. Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
They neither confirmed nor denied it.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, the author never specified whether they are the same Alice or not. They're probably the same Alice. I mean, he wrote those books for a girl called Alice, so. In the second book, Through the Looking Glass, Alice is an imaginative child, and a lonely one at that. We only see her with her cats and no one else in the real world. The narrative frames the story as Alice falling asleep and dreaming of entering a world through a looking glass, a mirror. One that's a world that is built like a gigantic chessboard. Her journey over the chessboard, played like a real game with characters representing different chess pieces, starts as a pawn that turns into a queen at the end. This represents her growth from a naive child into a more mature person. Literally represents, because this is ultimately still only a dream, and it merely reflects her thoughts and desires, like being lonely but also wanting to grow up. Now, the Alice from Serial Experiments Lain resembles the one from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in that she is quite literally the only normal person in the entire show, and the one from Through the Looking Glass in her growth during the series. Apparently, writer Chiaki Konaka was surprised by the gradually increasing importance of Alice as a character himself, and I'm like, didn't you write her like that? Oh well.
Well, sometimes the character wants away.
That is true. As an author, it's more like the characters are telling you their story and you write it down for them. Sometimes they just don't do what you want them to do. They refuse. Anyway, we could, of course, also connect the works by interpreting the Wired as Wonderland and the gradual blurring lines between the real and the virtual world as reflecting the book's themes. We could.
We could.
I mention it now. I think that's enough. Whatever. So much for Alice. Questions?
Not at the moment, no. If someone else has questions, there's a comment section for questions.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, that was, I found that fascinating, this connection.
It is.
I love the Alice books.
You do.
Now on to what Lain is actually about, because it's not about Alice in Wonderland. To tide us over, let's start with some parallels to our world. And a somewhat explanation of the collective unconscious, because I need that for the Lain and Deus section. So, Schumann is mentioned. He was a real person in our world. The Schumann resonances do exist. These are frequencies that are extremely low, with resonances happening between 3 to 60 hertz. I'll go a little bit more into that in a moment. Dr. Rushkoff in the anime put forth a theory about the collective unconscious, also in a moment. In this world that Ceci and I are stuck in, a Douglas Rushkoff existed. He wrote a book titled Siberia in 1994. Yes, this is what the bar pub thingy is named after. This book is about the growing subculture of internet culture. It's from 1994, mind you, and how it could create something like a global brain. We have the Knights of Eastern Calculus. Those are based on a hacker group that existed in our world called the Knights of the Lambda Calculus. The Roswell incident alien thing is a thing that happened in this world as well. They took that exactly as it happened in our world, I think, mostly, kind of. It's conspiracy theory stuff. And lastly, Professor Hodgson was named after Charles Dodgson, and Charles Dodgson is the real name of Lewis Carroll who wrote the Alice in Wonderland books, which is why he's a reference to Alice. Yeah, that's 3 of the 4 most important scientists of Serial Experiments Lain: Schumann, Rushkoff, and Hodgson. The 4th being, of course, Deus, aka Edi Masami. So, I'm going to mention the collective unconscious later, so I'm gonna explain for those that don't know or don't understand or forgot what that was in the show. We begin with the Schumann resonances, the real thing. Basically, some frequencies of the Earth's own electromagnetic field between 3 and 60 Hz resonate. They are thus global resonances. That's it. That is it. I know you humans learn all about frequencies and resonances in school, so I'm not going to explain basic physics to you. Next, fictional scientist Rushkoff and his collective unconscious theory. Dr. Rushkoff noticed that with the human population steadily growing, there would soon be as many people on Earth as neurons in a human's brain. Why a human's brain specifically? Because they think themselves to be a superior species. Like, oh, of course they do. Humans. You know.
I know.
Yeah, anyway, so becoming globally connected would thus result in the Earth itself awakening as a neural network, the collective unconscious. Also, Dr. Rushkoff theorized in the show. Hodgson then got together a bunch of children, using their psi energy to try to awaken the collective unconscious. The children died. A.D. Masami took all these ideas. For one, he wrote the Schumann resonance. In the anime, there's only one. They took the most well-known one and ignored all the others. So he wrote that one Schumann resonance into Protocol 7's code. Also a copy of his own mind. And yeah, his goal is he wants all of humanity to be connected as one in the Wired, as the next step of existence, of evolution. Hodgson's kids experiment is reused by A.D. Masami after he's already, killed his body, and his mind that he wrote into Protocol 7 is pretending to be a god in the Wired. We get an episode where Lain investigates the entire thing, why children keep dying mysteriously. That one is actually pretty well explained in the anime, I'd say. What A.D. is trying to achieve is, as Lain puts it in episode 12, to make the collective unconscious into a consciousness. Yeah. That's the basic rundown. You can get deeper into that if you want to. So, now, for the actual good part, main part, the thing. Lain, the Knights, and Deus. So, Cecilia, you told me that you had thoughts on Lain's personality thing, right?
Yes, I do. Because the further along I got in the show, the more I thought that Lain had developed a split personality.
Well, the correct term you're looking for is DID, short for Dissociative Identity Disorder. Dissociative Identity Disorder was at one point called Multiple Personality Disorder, MPD, also sometimes called Split Personality Disorder, but got renamed to more accurately describe what it actually is about, which essentially is complicated. I have a section on mental illness where we'll explain a little bit more.
Okay, right. Thank you for that clarification. So I will lay out my thoughts, and then you can tell me why I'm wrong and explain the existence of multiple lanes to me.
If you are wrong, yes.
If I am wrong. I mean, I'm wrong in most cases, you know? So...
True.
I first wrote down the thought of, the idea, I suppose, while watching episode 7.
That late?
Yes, that was the first time I wrote the thought down.
Okay.
Writing down and the thought occurring for the first time are two different things, I will have you know.
Yeah.
You have a shy and scared real-world Lain, and a very confident and badass Wired one. With the Wired one now slowly bleeding over into the real world since the lines are starting to blur. The real-world Lain is clearly scared of what is happening around her and to her. Like, there is this one part of her that is completely disconnected from the Wired and doesn't know what's going on. Like, you don't recognize yourself anymore if you would look at your online activity from an outsider's point of view. You realizing that you are like another person with a different personality when you are online, but that you don't feel like you actually are like that person. But that opens up the question, who are you then? When you realize you have like two different sides to yourself. So is the Wyatt Lain the first Lain, and the others all came into being later? That would mean it's not the identity disorder thingy, but some are actually different existences altogether, but they never seem to overlap. So was the real world Lain just in sleep mode or something when she was using her Navi, and the Wyatt Lain started to be active then? Was it always only one actively doing stuff, or can they act independently at the same time? I'm confused. So please clear my confusion.
Well, there are at the very least 3 different lanes.
Wow.
I'm not sure whether alters would be the correct term here, because that is a term used by people with DID, because Lain isn't human. So, the one you correctly identified, the shy, socially awkward, isolated Lain, is one. The second one is the confident, aggressive Lain of the Wyatt. Those 2 inhabit the same body.
Okay, so I'm not totally wrong.
We do not know to which extent shy Lain is aware of Lain of the Wyatt, but Lain of the Wyatt acts as if they are one and the same.
Well, yeah, that she does.
Then there is at least one more Lain that exists separately as an attempt of the Knights to create Lain of the Wyatt, to recreate Lain of the Wyatt, and also to drive the real Lain to madness. I will call her Creepy Smile Lain. This one is responsible for several incidents that happened around Lain, like appearing in Siberia without her knowledge, without her memory, because that wasn't her, it was the third Lain. Hacking into the public screens of Shibuya, appearing as a godlike figure in the sky, exposing Alice's thing with the teacher, etc. Unlike the other 2 Lains, Creepy Smile Lain will do anything to get what she wants, having no regard for humanity and no compassion for human life. So far so good?
Yes, so far so good.
Yes. This brings me directly to the Knights. The Knights of Eastern Calculus start off as something of a mystery, a rumor in the show. No one really knows what their deal is. And then they start interfering with Lain's life. They sort of support the person calling himself God, whose ultimate goal is to use Lain to bring down the barriers between the physical real world and the virtual world of the Wyatt. The Knights try to accomplish this by messing with Lain's mind. One of the things they do is alter people's memories to make them think they encountered Lain, to make her question her own self. Tado, one of the 3 little kids, is part of this one. Because Creepy Smile Lain does not have a body, but Tado manipulates the memories of the people at Siberia to make it seem like she was there in the flesh, which further messes with real Lain's mind, because it's like, I was here yesterday in person and dropped something, but I don't remember that. It's like, no, you weren't there. Taro dropped something and made everyone think it was Lain. So, there's also Axela. I forgot what it. Axela. I forgot how it was pronounced. The not drug. Also the Knight's fault. So the shooting incident at Siberia was instigated by them. And Lain making the shooter kill himself by manipulating the drug he ingested, which is ultimately an electrical device and she can manipulate that, is a consequence of that. So they essentially made a man kill himself. The Knights also sent the psyche chip to her. They blew up her cooler system. They made her sister lose her mind. Lain eventually essentially assassinates the Knights, but even that has been pre-planned to push her in the direction Deus wants her to go. This is where Tachibana Labs comes in. We see glimpses of Tachibana Labs throughout the series. They produce the Navi computers. Deus originally worked for them. The current president is working with, well, technically the Deus we meet in the series is a copy, so yeah, with the virtual Deus, not... So, Adi Masami worked for them, let's put it like that, and the current president of Tachibana Labs is working with Deus. Lain's family was put in place by Tachibana Labs to control her development. I do not know what the mother's deal is, but the father actually did care about Lain. The scene in episode 8 where they sit around the table in silence, and pretend that Lain doesn't exist was probably instigated by Tachibana Labs and or the Knights to worsen Lain's mental state. Yes, it is a super weird scene. Yes, that was on purpose. They did that on purpose. Either they were instructed to act like that, or they were manipulated by some sci-fi shit. All those are actually not the people who usually pretend to be her family. Who knows? Still with me, Cecilia?
Yeah, sadly. Poor Lain.
I suppose. Well, then there's God, Kami, also called Deus. A man who believes himself to be a god. The original Eiri Masami invented Protocol 7, which was meant to succeed Protocol 6. He put a copy of his own consciousness in a code that traverses the wired, even after his death. And that's the one that now pretends to be a god. It's a copy of his consciousness. So is it really him? It's a copy of him?
That is up
Depends.
for debate.
His body is dead. His body committed suicide. Deus claims to have made Lain. But it is more that he took Lain from the wired and put her in a man-made body. I think he used Protocol 7 for that to some degree. I'm not quite sure the mechanics of that. His goal is to use her for his own goal of bringing mankind to the next level, which he believes to be the wired. Lain would serve as his tool to control that world by overriding memories and therefore reality as he sees fit. Memory thing. We have a very small section of that at the end. It is implied that Lain already existed prior to the wired, and that it was actually Lain that invented Protocol 7, and she simply implanted the idea in Deus' mind, as well as making him give her a body using Protocol 7.
Why would Lain want a body?
From my perspective, no idea. From Lain's perspective, because she loves humans.
But why?
I have no idea. So Lain could be a sort of avatar of the wired. If she existed prior to the wired, then a different possibility would be that she's an avatar of the Earth's collective unconscious. That she, the collective unconscious, that is the center of no less than 4 scientists' works discussed in the series, one of them being the child killer and the other Deus, as I explained earlier. That's a whole thing. Makes a whole lot of sense, or maybe she's just a different entity, something that existed, maybe something akin to a god. There are a lot of discussions, philosophies about the whole god thing in the anime. Biggest question of this whole thing, though, is why would Deus put Lain in a body and then make it his ultimate goal to have her abandon that body, right?
I don't know.
It's a question. It's like,
yeah, and I can't
if you put her in a
answer
body,
it.
yeah, it's like his goal is to make her abandon the body, then why put it in there in the first place? My theory is, as an avatar of either the wired or the collective unconscious, or whatever she was before, she would originally have been undirected without a singular consciousness and self. Lain gains a self along with the body, giving her the ability to direct her thoughts and powers, which is what Deus wants for himself. The biggest point of both Lain's main personalities, Shy Lain and Lain of the Wired, is that they care about humanity. Lain loves humanity. She wants to retain her own humanity and not give it up, which is what giving up her body would mean for her. The central point of the show, right?
Yes.
Lain is passionate about stopping whatever's killing the children. She gets distressed when her family's legitimacy is questioned. She greatly cares about Alice. Her entire motivation for removing herself from the physical world and everyone's memories, along with erasing the existence of Protocol 7 at the end, comes from her love for humanity, for Alice as her one true friend. To allow humanity to stay human by keeping their physical bodies and removing all reality-altering powers from their reach. There we go. Questions?
Too many, so no questions.
Okay. Mental illness is my next section. Basically, all of the characters are mentally ill. Alice is the only normal person in this entire anime, kind of.
Yeah, of course they're all mentally ill. That's, yeah, no surprise.
Yeah, Alice is the only one who thinks, for example, the whole situation with the shooter at Siberia and how everyone reacted was strange. we get an outright conversation where she mentions that, and her friends are like, yeah, just how it is.
Yeah,
she is, as I mentioned, the only normal person in this entire show. She is Lain's one true friend. She is the one who helps Lain understand the importance of a body. It's Alice. Yeah, she
in Wonderland.
She got a really important role by the end. Lain is not human, so it's really hard to ascribe certain mental illnesses to her, to diagnose her. If she were human, one might diagnose her with hallucinations and an anime cyberpunk-esque version of DID. I wonder what a psychologist would think of her. Also, in America, at least, psychologists and therapists are different things. They have different educational backgrounds and different jobs, and that's very interesting. And I don't think it's like that around where we are, but whatever.
Whatever.
So, right. In the beginning, on the train, first episode.
In the beginning.
Lain is on the train. People are being loud. She's like, shut up, or something along those lines. Everyone looks at her weirdly. Was Lain rude to the people, or was that in her head? Or was it the people that are talking that are in her head? We don't know. But something is weird there in that one. We actually see Lain hallucinating a moving pattern in her shadow, other people turning into black shapes. Lain, at the beginning, is shy, isolated, doesn't pay much attention to her surroundings either. She has trouble concentrating. The blackboard keeps blurring in front of her. She sometimes spaces out and finds herself in different places. And she has some very obvious hallucinations like smoke coming out of her fingertips. When we meet her, her room is almost completely bare except for the stuffed toys on the windowsill that, I don't know, might have some symbolism, might just be there to make it seem not so empty. Her room is really, really empty. She doesn't even have a proper bed. There are moments in the early episodes where we can't be sure whether Lain is just staring at the Navi and hallucinating stuff that happens, or whether she's actually connected to the Wired and it's only presented as hallucinations. The anime is purposefully misleading like that. We also know, as explained, that Lain has at the very least 2 different personalities. Creepy Smile Lain obviously doesn't count. And then at the end there's like Lain in a cyan dress. That might be another one, who knows. We do actually see her dissociate a lot, which is part of DID. I mean, it's literally called dissociative identity disorder, because dissociation is a big major factor there. I'm still reluctant to call it DID because, like I said, she is not human, never was to begin with. For another, I'm not an expert, obviously. I didn't study psychology. Even those who study psychology often are not experts on DID, and DID is very complex as a disorder. Has already been misrepresented in a lot of different media. I think media is getting better at that, but yeah. One example that comes to my mind is Split. Horrible misrepresentation. Anyway. But there is like one personality switch that we see. One of the... Do we see multiple ones? I don't even remember. But one of them that we see is seems to me to be rather similar to how switches can happen for DID systems. It's in episode 8, when the dude who pretends to have no name, who was actually, I believe, the CEO of Tachibana Labs. Also, he called one of his underlings by his name, and I'm like, didn't you just say you don't have names? Anyway, episode 8, that dude. He questions whether Lain's parents are really her parents, and that distresses Shy Lain so much that Lain of the Wire takes over. Oh, this reminds me of primary protectors. Like, there's a lot of resources out there who can explain this way better than more accurate than I do. I simply stumbled across the term several years ago. Follow some people online ever since with DID and try their best to get rid of the stigma surrounding this. It's a really fascinating disorder. Also really sad in context. Because trauma. It's a child. It's caused by child trauma. And that's just... Yeah. Yes. So... All systems, DID systems, are unique, but since it ultimately is a form of defense resulting from a child experiencing expensive trauma, there are alters that can take on the role of protectors. As the name suggests, to protect the system. what Lain of the Wire does in that scene is step in as a protector to keep shy Lain from experiencing a panic attack. It's just one scene, but I found that interesting. Now I need to look up whether any DID experts have watched Serial Experiments Lain. Maybe some psychology experts, rather than the people that actually have DID, because Serial Experiments Lain has way too many triggering elements, but who knows? Who knows? Not everyone gets triggered by the same things after all. I'm curious, maybe someone has recommendations for the comments, please? I'm curious. I mean, this anime is super old. Back then there was not much known about DID either, so probably wasn't even intentional.
Probably
that
not.
It came across as DID, but yeah. Like I said, that one scene I found very interesting. So, yeah, mental. It is very much in focus of the entire show. You never really know what is real, especially with Lain, I mean, protagonist, and the Knights messing with her mind intentionally, making stuff happen. It doesn't help. They are on purpose trying to get her to have a mental breakdown, I suppose, so she will give up her body on her own. It's
not nice.
A whole thing. Moving on. I talked enough. Cecilia, forming connections through the Wired. Let's start this with a quote that we both put in our notes from the fake father.
Okay. When it's all said and done, the Wired,
or the internet,
is just a medium for communication and the transfer of information.
Yeah, and after that he says, you mustn't confuse it with the real world. Very interesting quote, very true quote.
Yes, very true quote. The Wired is basically the internet. A place where people connect with each other. You can interact with so many people online. People who share your interests and who you can engage in discussion with about said interests. Not everyone has people around them in the real world who they can connect with. They feel like outsiders, are sometimes outsiders, since they don't share the same interests as others. It's not a thing anymore, but back in the day, being a fan of anime and manga automatically made you an outsider because others didn't understand that interest. And instead of trying to understand it or simply acknowledging it and moving on to other topics, they take that one thing about you and don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, which is like, humans? Why? Yeah, but luckily these days it's gotten better.
Yes. For some reason back then it made you a loser, now it makes you cool. Humans. Weird beings.
Yes, we humans are very weird beings. So of course, when you feel isolated from your peers, you would turn to a device with which you can still form connections with others after having been cut off. Or you are simply not comfortable with sharing something face-to-face in fear of judgment and possible falling out. Behind a screen, you don't have to fear that judgment as much, because you can simply never talk to this person again. You don't know this person. You don't have to interact with or see them ever again if you don't want to. It's a perceived safety and an escape. It can be positive to share interests, an actual safe space, but it can also be become a place where people let out their own frustrations, feed into their own ego as much as possible, and live out their self-centered and narcissistic fantasies. Their personality basically doing a 180. And the little kid tells us, what was his name? Taco?
Yes.
Yes. Most people take on a personality in the Wired. They are something different than they are in real life, and we can also see that in the internet. Yes, the Wired is the internet.
Yeah. People, especially these days,
it got
with
worse.
the younger generations, not following basic rules anymore. They become rude. They know they won't face consequences. They forget that common decency is still a thing on the internet, and who you're shouting insults at is a real person behind another screen.
Yes,
or make very, very, very rude demands, or just generally just politeness and common decency are not really that degrading on the internet.
And I've also,
I mean, it's just always been that way, but I feel like it's become worse.
Yes, it's
recently.
It's definitely becoming worse because I heard it in a field where I just didn't expect it whatsoever. Because when I watched figure skating recently, the commentator is like, yeah, you can give me like comments on like Facebook, and then I can address that if you have like any questions. And he was like, please keep common decency in when you like write something to me, because otherwise I won't do this anymore, because he obviously doesn't want to read hate comments. So it's like, I totally didn't expect that. It's like,
yeah.
Why? And yeah, it's getting worse, sadly. And also, sadly, because of it, people are less motivated to engage in discussions with like real people around them if they are just not interested. Since online, you can go into a bubble and talk about what you want, and can sadly be as rude as you want, because you know you're not really going to face any consequences. Like, no need to talk about things others are interested in, but not you. Because why would you talk about things that you are not interested in? People are just becoming more self-centered, I guess.
Well, people love to hear themselves talk.
Yes.
It's the easiest way to get someone to like you. Simply listen to them talking about something they like, whether it interests you or not. Can be useful in a lot of situations.
And here I thought you were just being nice.
Well, it's not my fault if that is what others perceive it as, you know? It's a really useful manipulation technique. You just let them talk. You just need to like subtly nudge them, let them talk about something they really enjoy, pretend to listen, maybe ask some follow-up questions. If you're a multitasker, you can do other stuff in the meantime, and it's just a very easy way to get them to like you.
Yes, because
for whatever reason you need them to like you.
They will just be happy that they could share that interest with someone and share their enthusiasm. So yes, people like to talk.
I mean, if you can muster, whether it's genuine or pretend, if you can actually muster more enthusiasm and get into a discussion with them, they'll be even happier. But most people are just really satisfied with just talking.
I think that's...
And you just having someone to listen to them, seeming genuinely interested in what they say. And it's like super easy way to get someone to like you.
I think that's also because it has become more of a like problem maybe in the modern days, that people don't really listen anymore. That if they don't want to listen, they're just not going to listen to you, because they don't get that it would be common courtesy to listen to others.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's why people just want others to listen to them, because it's not as much of a thing back then as it was back then.
Yeah, if you want to get someone to like you, easiest way. No, of course it's more than that, and a proper relationship and connection takes more work. Yes. But that's a very easy way to get someone to like you. Just listen to them.
So
actually listen to them. Whether you're interested or not, just listen to them.
Just listen to them. It's the nice thing to do. And if you're not a nice person, then I guess use it as a manipulation technique if you need them to like you, I guess. Yeah, it's a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff approach. And I guess Gryffindor as well, because they are chivalrous. I can't pronounce that word.
Depends on the Gryffindor. Yeah, but it depends heavily on the Gryffindor.
Yeah, it depends heavily. It's just do it. It's not that hard. Anyway, connections through the internet or the wired are not exactly the same as real life connections, in my opinion. You can forge very strong bonds, maybe stronger than real life connections even, but at the end of the day, our human body desires warmth. We sometimes don't know who exactly is on the other end of the line. You lack the ability to see their gestures and facial expressions. And those give more life to a conversation, you know? You can interpret them, maybe see what they don't want to say out loud.
You cannot tell if they are fake on the internet.
Yes, that's also a thing. It's like, if you can see facial expressions and gestures, you can tell if they're pretending most of the time. Most of the time.
Yes, I was about to say. You can never tell with me after all.
Yes, I can't really tell with you. And I mean,
I'm an excellent liar.
And then
so
if you're faced with a person like Azula from Avatar The Last Airbender, where even Toph couldn't tell that she was lying when she said yes. I'm a, 10 feet tall pink flying elephant or something like that?
Unicorn. I don't know, but yes, it was awesome. I was like, same, buddy.
Yeah. And we all love to be cozy with a blanket, a nice hot beverage, ideally also with a cat. Yes. Yes, cat on your lap. Warmth like that can sometimes only be given through a hug or a specific facial expression, because words alone are sometimes just not enough.
Yeah, humans are like rabbits, from what I've observed. They die on their own.
Yes, they do.
Which ultimately is a consequence of having a body.
Yes.
So leaving your body behind should solve that. Lain maintains that a body makes one human, though, so would also mean leaving your humanity behind, but like, who needs to be human?
You still don't count, because you're an undead demon.
You wound me. Oh, shot through the heart, stabbed. I'm bleeding out over here.
Oh, the tragedy.
Can you see how sincerely hurt I am? Of course, I don't care.
Do you even bleed? Can you bleed? Well, do you have?
Yes.
I mean, you're an undead demon. Do you have undead blood running through your veins?
It's well, I wouldn't recommend using my blood to give you a blood infusion.
Well, I wouldn't want to try
even if we had this. Even if I had a human blood, what was it? Group? No. You know the ABO0 thing?
Yes, I know.
Whatever. Even if I had a human...
Is it blood type?
Yes,
blood
type, that's the word. Even if I had the same human blood type as you, I would probably still poison you, because like I have got like all these... I've got like the stuff that dead bodies have. You know, the thingies.
Yeah. I should go blood donate again, because my blood type is always in demand.
Well, nice people do that, don't they?
Yes.
I can't.
And they get money for it.
I'm medically not able to, so why would I do that?
Anyway,
either way,
to your experience, Lain.
To answer your question, yes, I can bleed. I sometimes get nosebleeds. Those are not nice. I often don't notice myself bleeding because my pain tolerance is
high,
abnormal. Yeah,
astronomical.
But I can. I had a nosebleed recently, actually. Not as worse as they were. Anyway, so yeah. Humans are rabbits. They die on their own.
Yes.
I say a cat is enough.
It helps.
Cat.
Void
cat.
So, yes,
last official section, and then if you have any questions that you want to be answered, we can do that after. Memory is a record. From episode 13. We have two very similar quotes. One is from Alice, two are from Alice, technically. One, if you don't remember something, it never happened, and the other, if you aren't remembered, you never existed. Same meaning, slightly different formulation is later in that same episode. What isn't remembered never happened. Memory is merely a record. You just need to rewrite that record. Which is an interesting quote. Especially for someone like me, whose memory is, well, let's just say my brain doesn't transfer most memories from short-term to long-term, because my mind is constantly in a state of information overload. So it can't effectively sort out which short-term memories are important enough to be saved for long-term. I have got a system to work around that, which basically just means write everything down. Everything is written down. Everything.
Note
and I just have to
phone.
regularly check my notes. It's an effective system. You just need to like ingrain that in your daily life to actually write that stuff down and actually look at your notes. Harder than you'd think. For someone like me. Interestingly enough, I can sometimes observe my brain deleting memories. It's fascinating.
How the actual...
If I could explain that, well, it's as if you were like I said, use a computer analogy. You did take a text document.
Yes.
Normal people.
Yes.
Normal people write down what they do in a day, their memories,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end regularly save that, and at the end they save this document and know where it is. Some people forget where they saved the document, but it's there. Me, I kind of, well, not me, my brain just deletes most of the document and saves it somewhere I don't know where it is. So I have like, I don't know where the document is and parts of it are missing. That's how my brain works. And I can sometimes, not always, watch the deleting process and watch it be saved and disappear to no idea where it was saved. Occasionally some memories come back that I thought that I didn't even know were saved. Where I'm like, why did you save this one? Why did it come back to me now?
Why did you save this one and not the other one?
Yeah, just generally I cannot tell you I can tell you what I did yesterday because I streamed yesterday.
Yes.
So
You did, I was there.
Yeah, there is a 4-hour video on that on my watch channel. So that stuff I can actually look up.
Yes.
I don't remember most of it though. I remember that I cooked yesterday and what we ate, and
yes.
I know that I read fan fiction, right?
Yes.
So that's a good day. Most days are like gone, completely gone. No idea what I did, no idea where. Well, I was obviously home.
Well, a safe bet is always I cuddled a cat.
Yeah, it's just, well, I cannot tell you on which nights I fell asleep with a cat and woke up with a cat and which days I didn't, because no idea. It often happens, but not always. I don't know.
I mean, I also wouldn't.
But yeah, generally
remember
it's
that.
just,
Like,
you ask me like you could ask me what happened yesterday. No idea. The entire day is gone. What happened the day before that? I don't know. Entire day, gone. Entire week, gone. 90% of my life, just not there anymore.
It all blurs together for me. At one point, it just starts to blur. It's like, I also couldn't accurately tell you what I did like exactly 30 days ago. It's like, how am I supposed to know?
Well, so I think that is normal. Do you know many people can remember their childhood?
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, I don't have a childhood, but I'm like, that's how many years ago for you? Let's take the same for me. That doesn't exist.
I have bits.
Nothing
and pieces.
exists from my. Yeah, I have like small bits and pieces, but humans generally, most humans remember a lot more. A lot more.
I have like, I don't even know if I have like 10 memory snippets of like before or when I was just starting school or preschool or something. It's like, how many memories do I have from that? Like first grade and previously.
If someone who knew you gave you prompts or showed you pictures or something, you might remember a lot of them.
Jog your memory.
Yeah, you can't do that for me. If you knew me 10 years ago or 15 years ago, which you didn't, and tried to, I mean, there are people still alive who do. Like, it wouldn't work. I would be like just blankly staring at them and be like, I don't have that memory.
That happened? I don't remember.
Yeah, and it's the same for like, it doesn't matter how long ago it was or how recent. No idea. Delete it.
Could be like a day, could be a week, a month, multiple years.
10 years? Yeah, no idea. I don't remember anything.
What even are memories? Information stored in your brain. What is the difference compared to a computer, like, except the medium used for storage?
That's why I use that analogy.
Yeah, because
yes, good question.
Computer memory can also be manipulated, and so can the memory of a person. Like, the online network and the neural network of a single human brain are similar in some regards. So is the internet just a global neural network as well?
Well, according to some of the scientists from Dyalla Experiment Lain, yes.
Huh. And do you really only exist in the memories of other people, like the show tells us? If no one remembers you, you never existed, well, they tell us. And I can't say I agree. The image we have of a person, or even an object, is limited to what we know and have experienced. There are more aspects to a person than, for example, like a friend will ever see. Their perception is limited to the time they spent with you. You could say that a different version of you exists in every brain of a person who has ever met you. And even if two people experience the same thing with a third person, they will have different impressions of that third person. The differences might be subtle, but they are there. Because they're influenced by all the other experiences they have made. And you still exist, you know, even if no one existed, even if no one remembers you. Over time, most people are forgotten, but they still existed. They influenced the people and land around them. And these influences then went on to the next generation, and so on and so forth. So even if no one remembers you, they have still left their mark, however subtle it may be.
But that is the point. If no one remembers you, and that includes the end, as you put it, then did you even exist? Because there is no proof of your existence. No one remembers, so no one would go looking for it either. And you yourself aren't there to be the proof of your own existence. Otherwise, people would remember you. So no memory means no marks left, because erased, gone. So did you exist? There is no proof.
The fence I built or the house I venerated, it's just gone?
The signs you left, those are memories. They would have been, in the context of Lain, are erased. Right? All memories of you are erased.
So I never used
rewritten.
I never used the material to build a fence. It never happened. The material. It could be, I never bought it.
Yeah, that's one. Either that it gets erased or it gets rewritten so that people remember someone else doing it, or just someone doing it, but not you doing it. The connection is gone. No memories of you. No one remembers you. You're not there anymore. So did you exist? The only one capable of your or remembering your existence, proving would you be yourself. But if you're not there, then you didn't exist, right?
But there needs to be something that is like deleting the memory of me and rewriting the memory.
And that is what Lain does. That is her ability, the one that Deus wants to use. That is what Lain does.
So Lain would still remember me, so I would still have existed, because Lain would have the memory of rewriting the memory.
Well, maybe, or that includes her own memory. I mean, it is, and essentially what she does at the end, she erases herself from
yeah,
and rewrites some things, like the family being an actual family. I'm assuming that's because it was her wish, because it doesn't quite make sense in the context, but it was her wish to have a real family, so she would rewrite them to be a real family.
Real family.
Yeah, that's the point of why Deus wants to use her, because she has the ability to literally alter reality by rewriting memories.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the memory. So, questions left?
Yes, actually. The sister coming home to see herself and then Lain seeing a ghost where the schoolgirl attire sister stood, that had me confused.
Yeah, we need to backtrack a bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to the beginning of that episode. Chronologically, it starts with the dude giving out tissue packets and Tado, the computer nerd kid. Tado upsets the sister on purpose by flirting with her or whatever, so he can accidentally spill his drink, and that forces her to use the tissues that she just got. And this is how the nights start getting into her head. Probably via some sci-fi, cyberpunk stuff. Who knows? The specifics aren't important. They do a lot of stuff to drive her mad. All for Lain, of course, because the ultimate goal is to drive Lain mad, right?
Yes.
It's most likely through a forced connection to the wired, similar to what Lain can do with the psyche chip. Since this is cyberpunk, they might also have like reprogrammed her or something. Whatever they did. We see her parallel. One version of her is at home, feeling odd. Before the ghost things happens, right? She's already at home. And the other version of her is in the restaurant, in the city, doing stuff, being lost. So there are two versions of her even before the scene happens that got you confused. You might not think that's the case because it's not quite told linearly, right?
Yes.
It's not a linear narrative, so you think, okay, we see her already being at home and we see what happened before that, but that's not what happens. We see stuff that happens at the same time, actually. Probably.
Present day, present time, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe her consciousness was split. Or maybe it was forcefully separated and the nights temporarily separated from her body, and then the nights temporarily installed a fake one. The thing is, she only enters the vegetative state, the one where she's basically, what was it, the energy, fax machine? I think the writer said she's like a fax machine or something.
Okay.
After that. She only enters that state after she sees herself. Whichever her sees another her, doesn't matter in this case, right? She sees herself. Either the body sees the cyber ghost or cyber ghost sees body, whatever. She sees herself. This is what triggers her loss of mind, basically. Or this is the final straw, you could say. I believe in some interview the producer mentioned that her mind ends up trapped in the wired and her body is left behind empty.
An empty shell.
She might also have, after that, before the Knights might have used the whole driving her mad thing to control her to plant the bombs that blew up Lane's cooler system. So basically what you see, where she sees herself, it's the cyber ghost thing that is her mind that is trapped in the wired, and her actual body with either a part of her consciousness or a fake consciousness looking at each other. More questions?
No.
Good. Well, this is where we ended.
Yeah.
We are on Twitter, Spotify, and YouTube at Tea and Toffies.
And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment. Do you find serial experiments, Lain, scary for being so accurate, like 25 years ago? Yes, it is.
No. It's awesome.
And also, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.
Until next time. Actually, what are we doing next? I forgot. Oh yeah, Madoka.
Madoka Magical.
And then we're moving on to non-anime. That was enough animated shows. For too many animated shows. We're doing other stuff then.
Yes, other stuff.
Maybe some MCU. Maybe some related. I feel like superheroes. Let's do some superheroes.
Okay. Or supervillains.
Or villains. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So Madoka and then some. Yeah, and the anniversary is in there somewhere, and I actually have no idea when we do Harry Potter next. Whatever,
they will see when the episodes come out.
Yeah, so next is Madoka and then something else, something not animated. Until then, we'll see you. Bye.